Before we get into this review, I'm just curious what your favorite shoe is that you've ever skated, and what is it that you look for in a perfect skate shoe? So Shane O'Neill is probably the most skilled skater the world has ever seen. He has arguably the deepest bag of tricks of any skateboarder. If you disagree, just leave it in the comments who you think is more skilled than Shane, but whoever you drop in the comments is probably gonna agree with me that Shane O'Neill is the most skilled skater and probably not human at all. So I would be lying if I told you that I wasn't hoping for some magical Shane O'Neill powers by buying and skating his shoes. And obviously I didn't turn into Shane O'Neill like some kind of skateboard version of Space Jam or something like that. But I was really surprised how much I actually ended up liking these shoes. But first, before we get into the full review of the Nike Shanes, if you do like these videos and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see all 6 that I put out each week, you can hit that notification bell and it will let you know when I post. For those of you that want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at @TheLocalJoe. Remember to make every single day a Friday. Shirts are in the link in the description. So the first thing that you'll notice about this shoe is it has a very clean aesthetic. Mine in particular were like a light tan, I think they call it sesame color, which on one hand looked really good to start out with, but on the other hand, they got dirty and they really grabbed onto the blackness of this parking lot, and by the end they just looked awful. I don't think that's really anything particular to, you know, the Nike Shanes. It's just kind of the trade-off of buying really clean, light colored shoes. They just get dirty really easily, and it's the price that you pay, I guess. One thing that I loved about these shoes is they have very subtle Nike branding marks. So they've got the little swoosh rather than most Nike shoes have just like a giant swoosh on the side and Nike everywhere. On this shoe, it's a lot more subtle. So I like that they changed it up with these shoes. The next thing I want to cover is the flick. So before I was skating the Nike Shanes, I was skating slip-on Volk shoes. Just to give you some comparison, so the Nike Shanes are not quite as pointy and fast of a flick as a Volk, but they're probably going to be a more flicky, faster flick than most cup soles, for example. And that's because the toe is just a little bit more round than like a Vans shoe, for example. But compared to Nike shoes, which are generally really round, these are probably a little bit more pointy than a Nike shoe, but less pointy than like a Vans. So it's like a good middle of the road. Personally, it only took me like 15 minutes to get used to these shoes, and that's not due to me, that's due to the shoes. The shoes were really easy to get used to, but the flick is a little bit slower, so it lets you really kind of extend and put a little bit more juice into your flick, which has a really nice feeling to it. The other thing that I really liked about these shoes is for a Volk shoe, they actually heel flip really, really well. So when I skate slip-ons, I usually start to lose my heel flips for some reason. I think it's just because the profile of the shoe is so small and skinny, and these are just a little bit less slim than a normal slip-on Volk shoe. So it gave it a little bit more shoe to actually grab onto those heel flips, and yeah, I really enjoyed flicking my board with these shoes, whether it's kick flips or heel flips. So next I want to talk about the comfort. So these shoes are about as comfortable as it gets. That's probably, in my mind, the biggest strength of these shoes is how comfortable they were. There was no break-in period. When I was skating these shoes for the first time, my feet never hurt at all. I felt really comfortable just right off the bat. Personally, I hate it when you have to take time to actually break in your shoes, and I know a lot of people do the microwave thing or put it in the oven, but personally I don't do any of that. I just put them on and I skate, and if my feet hurt, my feet hurt, and if they don't, they don't. And with these shoes, my feet were completely good to go from the first minute I started skating. So as far as the comfort of these shoes go, I've got really nothing negative to say about it. As far as supporting your feet, I would say that these shoes are very supportive for a Volk shoe, but they're definitely not a cup sole. So with that thin of a tread on the bottom, you really can't expect to have that much support. But at the same time, as far as vulcanized shoes go, these are probably the most supportive vulcanized shoe that I've skated. And it's not just supportive, or I guess protective on the bottom, it's also really nice on the top of the shoe. The upper is thick enough that you're not really afraid of the board landing on your foot, which gives you a lot of confidence confidence to try tricks that you're not really good at because you're not afraid of the board, you know, falling on your toe and ending your session out of nowhere. One thing I did notice that was a little bit odd about these shoes is there's like a bubble in the heel, like that gives it that cushion in the heel. And probably like a few weeks into skating them, that bubble started to, like, instead of being in the little air zoom unit or whatever it is, it started to like bulge out, so you could visibly see the bubble pushing through the insole. And it never affected me. I probably only noticed it for like the first 5 minutes I was wearing the shoe, and then once I was skating, I never noticed it again, and it definitely didn't impact my skating negatively or positively. It just didn't really notice it. But it was interesting that whatever technology they got going on in there is, I guess they're still working out the kinks. Now finally, the area that I was most surprised by these shoes was the durability. They lasted way longer than I would have thought. I thought these were gonna be like typical Nike shoes, which are more performance over durability, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that these shoes really have both. It felt like for the first few sessions, the shoe was kind of wearing down, the flick was kind of finding its sweet spot, but from there, the flick really did not change that much from that point all the way until the end. The only time that the flick started to become an issue was at the very end when I'd worn through all of that toe rubber area, and then the grip tape was starting to rub on the tread that was sticking through on the bottom of the shoe. And at that point, I mean, you can't really do anything about it. The shoe's kind of run its course, but despite the fact that the toe was worn through, there was still a lot of life left in the outsole of the shoe, in the tread, and there were no rips and no tears on the upper of the shoe. So had the toe cap area lasted longer, these shoes would have had a lot more life left in them. So that's really my only complaint about the durability, is the fact that the toe cap wore out before the other areas of the shoe. But at the same time, my bag of tricks is pretty limited, so I end up doing a lot of kick flips and fakie flips. So maybe for somebody else it would wear out more evenly, but for me, I definitely wore through the toe cap first, and that was the first part of the shoe to go for me. But all in all, I mean, the shoe lasted a long time, so really no complaints as far as the durability is concerned. So I've got to say, the Nike Shane is a way more solid shoe than I thought it was going to be, and I would probably consider getting a second pair. Let me know in the comments below what your perfect shoe is, if you've skated it, or what is it that you look for in your perfect skate shoe. For me, I just like to have a cup sole that gives me support but feels like a vulcanized shoe, kind of somewhere in the middle, kind of like a hybrid between Volk and cup. That for me is the sweet spot. But let me know what's the perfect shoe for you, and I'll go through your comments and maybe I'll try one of your shoes that you suggest. All right guys, enough talking today. Let's go ahead and get some skate clips. Cue. Alright guys, well I hope that was entertaining for you. Got a little bit bloody there at the end. Feels good to bleed every now and again, you know what I mean? Like, obviously you don't like getting hurt, but sometimes it's nice to see a little blood to know you're alive. Leave it in the comments below if you feel the same way, or if you think I'm a psychopath, but I genuinely, sometimes I like to see myself bleeding. Okay guys, well, good session. I decided to just do a bunch of single tricks and not too many lines. That way I could try harder tricks that normally you don't see me do, like the front board 270. I'm getting blood all over me. I don't know what else I did in there, but there were some tricks that I don't normally do. So thank you so much guys for watching, for subscribing, for liking, for making this channel what it is. If you haven't already and you like these videos, you can go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications. If you want to see all 6 videos that I put out each week, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at The Local Joe. Remember to make every single day a Friday, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Yeah.